Hello. My conversation today is with a friend of mine, Molly Jones, who is a composer, performer, and music technologist based out of Chicago. We have a really cool conversation about projects during COVID and what it means to be a musician at this time in the United States and the Chicago music scene and online music venues and all sorts of other forms of electronic musical communication. But before we get to that, please remember to leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. And if you would like to consider supporting my content generally, please consider visiting my Patreon page. Welcome to Music in Mind, with Anthony Caulkins. Hi.
Hello.
So, this is my friend, Molly Jones. We met 2014, I think, back at University of California, Irvine. We were both doing a master's program in integrated composition, improvisation, and technology. So we are now masters of all three of those things. Yeah. So,
and of the fine arts, too.
Oh, yes. Of course. Yes. MFA. Yep. Okay. So how's it going?
It's good. I'm sitting on my couch that I've been sitting on for the last, 7 months straight, pretty much. Yeah. So, it's raining. It's nice. How are you?
Oh, nice. Oh, I wish it would rain here. It is so hot in LA.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So Molly's in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. Yes, and here at least, the standard weather pattern is it starts snowing by Halloween, so we're approaching that, and it sounds like LA is not.
No. I really miss that Midwest change. Like, October is so nice. It starts getting chilly, it gets rainy, it's snowy.
Yeah,
I love it.
So nice. Oh,
the
man.
smell in the air. The best.
Yes, I love the seasons. I have to say that was the thing that I least liked about living in California was
I know, I can't, it drives me insane that it's like January and it's blistering hot and you're just sitting in your car and the sun's beating down and all of the heat is radiating off the concrete and it's just like you're in a bad mood. Yeah. So what have you been doing on your couch for 7 months?
I've been, besides having, existential crises, I've been recording some stuff, doing some live stream shows.
Oh, cool.
And I just released a cassette through a new label here that's called Arcane Object. And, so Arcane Object, basically, someone I'm indirectly connected to in the scene around here, more like the noise scene than the improvised music scene, just kind of contacted me and said, hey, we're starting a cassette label and we want to release this cassette art object in a limited run.
Okay.
And do you want to make one? And I was like, yeah, sure. So they gave me, basically the goal was to use magnetic tape for as much of the process as possible. So they said, all right, so what do you want to do? I kind of told them an idea of what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And then they packed this bag full of tape equipment and sent it home with me. And so then I just spent a month playing with all this tape equipment.
So all those samples in it that are sped up and slowed down, is that all analog with tape?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. I just assumed you did it digitally. That's amazing.
Yeah, I wound up, the very last step was I took it to digital to mix it a little bit. But
right.
Beyond that, yeah, everything's with tape. And my favorite piece of equipment was this courtroom recorder, which I had never worked with one of those before. But it's this big black box from probably the 90s that you put a couple tapes in, and then you can change all these the speed, but also sort of the treble and bass levels and all this stuff, and then you can scrub backwards and forwards through the sounds.
I wonder why a courtroom recorder would need any EQ.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I almost wonder, I don't know, people who do that professionally probably understand why that.
Like they're both courtroom recorders and audio files. So they're trying to get that replay just right.
That's right.
You hear all the lows in that? You can hear everything.
so important for our justice system to yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I almost wonder if it's related to like fatigue, because you'd be listening to that for hours and hours and hours every day. So I almost wonder if it's like they just have that so that, I don't know, make it easier to listen to for hours and hours.
Yeah, like pump up that bass. Let's get the party going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. And then the release, so you released it on Bandcamp, right?
Yeah, it is available on Bandcamp. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, but you can buy it physically. Does it come with a cassette player?
It does not come with a player. It's just like the cassette with like some like artwork and booklet and stickers and stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Because the picture, it looked like it might come with a cassette player, but because this is the thing is I don't have any way to play cassettes. Otherwise, I would totally have bought it. But also, it is cool as an art piece in and of itself.
Yeah, I think the goal was the tracks are available for like free, actually, name your price download on Bandcamp, so you can hear it. But yeah, I think the goal of the label is really to make objects. Like, I don't actually own a cassette player either.
How many copies of this tape do you own?
I own 10, and I can't play any of them. So So the other fun thing about that's not musical at all, but like I was inspired like by the idea of solar wind, just like this idea of like we're constantly, like, you and me both right now are just being bombarded by particles that have just been thrown out of the sun, and it's just like constant, and we've just like evolved to not notice or like sense it, but it's just happening
crazy. Yeah
all the time.
It's weird how much physical like phenomenon we have no way of sensing that's happening. That's crazy.
It's totally, it is. And then like a solar flare happens and like everything stops working and we're like, why did everything stop? Oh, wait, there's like a massive flame, like ball of flame coming out of the sun. Like, crazy.
So how often does that happen? Solar flares. I don't know anything about them.
I actually don't know how often. I think they're kind of unpredictable. I don't know how often they happen. I think it's like there's little ones all the time and then big ones are like,
cool,
less frequent. But yeah, part of the cassette, or the thing that they put into the little cassette box was like sunflower seeds, like a native sunflower, so you can just like, I don't know, harness the energy of the sun with the little cassette project. I don't know. Yeah.
What do you think people will eat them?
Hopefully they will plant them. I mean, they could eat them if they want.
Yeah. Well, I guess if somebody sends me sunflower seeds, my initial thought is snack. Just because we eat them as snacks. You
have a point, and I didn't really think of that, so maybe it is a snack.
Well, because when you order equipment from Sweetwater, they send the little bag of candy with it.
They do, yes. I have a story about that. I used to work at a public library that did a synthesizer festival because we had a synthesizer collection every year. And so we got Sweetwater to sponsor it, so they would send free like merch and stuff to give out. And every year, though, we would ask for just a couple copies of their catalog for anyone interested. Mm-hmm. But instead, they would ask, well, how many people do you expect to attend this event? And we would say, like, maybe 500. And they would send us 500 full-sized catalogs and bags of candy. So we would just have, like there would be a truck that would arrive and unload like pallets full of candy and Sweetwater catalogs. Yeah, it was pretty silly, but everyone loved the candy. So
yeah, I mean it is a nice touch. It's a good gimmick they've got.
Yeah.
I don't know about their calling you all the time thing, but
oh, see, I've avoided that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, that's cool. So you made it pretty much all with tape. Mm-hmm. And so there's like a lot of noise in it as well as samples and then flute and all sorts of things. So is that just overdubbing?
Sort of. I got like a stack of like, so all the tapes we used, including the ones that you get if you buy it, are all recycled. So basically, I just got a stack of old used cassettes and erased all of them. So some of them are a little funky, which is like where some of the sound came from. They're like stretched out or loose or whatever. And I just like erased all of them. And then I recorded, what all did I record? I just like carried a little cassette recorder around with me for a little bit to like
Oh, cool.
some Zoom rehearsals, and then I would take the out from my laptop and like speed it way up or something, or like there's some alto flute. That's the only that's the only acoustic like instrument on there.
Okay.
But then I have like a bunch of toys I was using, like bells and shakers and like rice in a bowl and stuff like that I like recorded.
So that's a lot of the like crispy sounds and stuff. Okay, cool.
Yes.
I mean, I love it. I've listened to it like 3 times now. It's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. The flute really comes through too. It's so nice in this texture. It's kind of like poignant or something.
I'm curious what you think about mixing acoustic audio sources with digital ones in like electronic work.
Well, I think it's different in live performance versus in a recording, because a recording, especially something that you're listening to streamed, is sort of all digital anyway, in a sense. And so it's just sort of the process for how that sound has gotten there, whether you recorded it through a microphone or created it through a digital synthesizer or something like that. I think in live performance, it's a big problem for me. So like if I'm doing live mixing, my worst nightmare is that there's sounds, some of the sounds are coming through like the house system and some of the sounds aren't. And I don't know why that sounds terrible to me, especially if it's like electronics and like the flute player, but the guitar player and drummer aren't, because it really like separates the sound in a way that bothers me, because it really makes clear that there's like electronics and then acoustics.
So how did you like handle that way back when we were both like alternately working at Smith Hall? Yeah.
Oh yeah. We were both graduate production assistants at UC Irvine, doing sound for all the shows there.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I was lazy, I wouldn't care. But if I was on top of it, I would probably mic everything. If anything was going through the speakers, I would mic everything to blend it. Mm-hmm. So even if something was already loud, like a drum set, I would put just a little bit of it in the speakers to try and create like an immersive environment coming from the speakers. I don't know, it's like that problem of bleed off the stage versus the sound system. I feel like once the sound system is engaged, the ideal is that all the sound is coming from the sound system.
I feel like we had a conversation about sound reinforcement at some point, like a long time ago. I think so, yeah.
Like you and me, or in the program?
In the program. I mean, like, I feel like we were part of a social turned nerdy conversation about the use of like a sound system just to reinforce acoustic instruments. Like,
okay, so we've had this conversation before, perhaps.
A little bit, yeah. That's one reason I think I thought to ask, is like I remember you having thoughts about that.
I think my thoughts are probably the same. I'm probably not saying anything novel here. I thought you meant like the professor sat us down.
No,
like we need to talk about sound reinforcement.
I kind of wish they had, though, in retrospect, like, but I don't think that's what anybody's specialty was, so. No.
Well, yeah, cool. So you have the cassette project. What have your live streams been? I don't know if I've seen many of those.
I haven't done a lot. I mean, I've done a few through the experimental sound studio here in Chicago has been running a series of like daily, sometimes more than once daily concerts called the Quarantine Concerts. And they're, so I've done a few through that. I like did one at the end of August that was a duo with Angela Bat-Dawid, who's a clarinetist. I'd written like an index card composition for the two of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw something about that.
Yeah, I was
Index
probably posting
card sounds
about
familiar.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote a piece for the two of us, and I did another solo set with them, and I feel like I did 3 total with them, but yeah, they're in a unique position, I think, because they are a recording, like a visual and audio recording studio, in addition to being a live venue. And so as soon as this shutdown started, like within a week, they already had an online venue set up. And they already had all the equipment to do high quality streaming. And so they've been doing it Yeah, every single day back since March.
Cool.
They've been doing it. Sometimes there's one in the afternoon, one in the evening. And the nice thing is, like, the room itself. I don't know. Have you spent time in Chicago? And you have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been to shows at ESS?
I haven't.
It's a really nice venue, but it's very small. It's like very intimate.
I
so
feel
like
I've seen videos from there.
Yeah, it's like it's like a wide rectangle, and like if you have a group in there, you can seat like max 20 people, like maybe 15 to 20 people, and you're all crowded in. But like since the beginning,
that sounds great in COVID. That sounds wonderful.
Right? Yeah, that'll be a landmark when we can go back and do that again. But yeah, so they like when they started streaming, they would have like 100 people watching each show. So it's like the artists, then they give all the money to the artists. So they would basically, you'd earn more from a show after quarantine than you did doing a live show there before.
That's amazing. That's cool.
Which is, yeah, they've done a really good job with that. And there's other venues around here that are like doing a lot of streaming. But
that's exciting to hear. So there is something happening. There's living music.
Yes, definitely. Like ESS has been great. Elastic Arts here has started to do some like maybe once every weekend they'll do a show. And they just got a cool thing. Well, unfortunately, right before the shutdown, they just installed. They're calling it the Cleat system, but it's a 16-channel speaker array that's like distributed throughout the space.
Oh,
so
fun.
And it's nice because they are very open about it. You just basically join their like Google Drive group, and then you can just book time and go make stuff in their 16-channel system like whenever you want.
That's amazing.
So there's and I think they're trying to find a way to do like a binaural recording of some of the 16-channel work so that you can actually like listen to it. And so there's a lot of local groups that are doing really good stuff here. And I'm curious what's been going on in LA with streaming.
I don't know. I feel like I've been like just so like out of it in terms of community stuff. I don't know. I have no idea. I was trying to start an online venue myself at one point.
Oh, cool.
But I feel like I don't have the tech set up. So I was like trying to work with OBS and go maybe from Zoom into OBS or from some kind of streaming platform into OBS. But I couldn't figure out how to get it so that video and audio stayed synced up, and it became such a problem that I kind of gave up on it. But,
What vision did you have for this venue?
So actually it's based on the model of places like the Comedy Store or the Comedy Cellar in New York. So like a workout club for musicians to do short, like 15, 20-minute sets of new material.
Wow, that sounds really cool.
Well, because I love this model that the Comedy Cellar and the Comedy Store have, is that it's not an open mic. It's professional comedians, but the sets are short. They're 15 minutes, and they'll go through 20, 30 comedians a night.
Wow.
And the idea is like the regulars will do 4 or 5 sets there a week.
That sounds really awesome. I feel like musicians would dig that.
Yeah. Well, because it also creates a scene and a community. And that's something, especially in LA, I feel like it doesn't really ever happen to that level. And I feel like when I imagine places like Austin and Nashville, I kind of imagine things like that where musicians are doing multiple sets a day, like many days a week.
Yeah, or like, a combination of like, that's a really cool idea. You could try out new concepts, and I feel like it's also just like a good time for like the idea of an online venue is a really good one. Like I've only seen one that's other than like regular venues expanding. The only one I've seen is this new one called Oda. Have you heard about this? I think it's called Oda. Let me just make sure it's called Oda. But their first series of concerts looks pretty spectacular. I know about it because Angel Bat Dawid, who is the person I did the duo with at this latest stream show, is one of the artists, but she's on there alongside. Let me just pull up who else is on there. It's like a crazy lineup that they have for these shows. And they're really going all in with the idea of like a high profile online venue.
Uh-huh. I feel like the difficulty online is the communal aspect, because I feel like this is part of what is making it hard for me right now, is that I feel like I'm not really connecting with people. So if I'm making all this music at home, it doesn't feel... It's missing a part of music performance that's important to me.
Are you doing any like jams, like virtual jams or anything?
Yeah, I've done a few, and they're okay. Mm-hmm. Having an audience would be better, and so like things like Twitch streams and stuff. I feel like it's close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Oda, here's some of the artists that they have on their first like season. So Ann Peebles, DJ Python, Madlib, Pauline Anastrom, Terry Riley, Sonia Sanchez, Standing on the Corner.
Terry Riley is performing?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was still performing.
I don't know, but they have like a crazy lineup here of like 20 artists, so yeah. I'm kind of curious what it's going to be like.
That's pretty wild.
It is. So you got to get in there. You got to get your venue.
Oda,
ODA, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's a little bit of a tech hurdle. So like if you have the funding for some decent equipment, like a distributed system like audio and video kind of controlled separately, it would work a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, that's the wall that we're all running into right now. And like, what was this jam I did? Okay, so I was actually with one of our other ICIT fellow classmates, Martim.
Cool.
He's teaching at Brown while he's finishing his PhD.
Yeah.
And he has an ensemble he's running, and he invited me to just like jam in the ensemble, right? So we were jamming in the ensemble, and like we were using that funny Jamulus.
Oh,
we're talking about Jamulus.
I've used Jamulus. Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And that is, it was like the room he picked out. It's like basically like they create a bunch of like sort of an old fashioned chat room where you can just, they create rooms and then you can just go into one of them and whoever's there is there. And so like the one he picked for us, he's like, oh, this one's pretty much always empty. It's like New Jersey guitar jam or whatever. And so we just like all went in there, and then we kept suddenly hearing all these voices in the middle of what we were doing being like, John, are you in here? Who's in here? Who are you people? It's rude to not put your instrument in your name. Come on, guys. You gotta...
Come on, guys.
It was like very like we got policed by the New Jersey guitar police, and I don't know.
That's weird. Jamulus is kind of a goofy platform.
It is.
It definitely has like that old school chat room vibe that you were talking about. It also, I feel like it crashes a lot.
Oh, we didn't experience that, but okay. I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you tried any of the other new, like networked performance platforms?
I tried one. A friend of mine did actually. So yeah, I played with my friend Derek Worthington's ensemble for the network or the Music Now festival in UK, and for audio we used this. What was it called? It was called Sound something. I don't know what it was called. And apparently from Derek's computer it sounded great, but like none of us could really hear each other. Great. So it's like I don't know, I'm skeptical of any of these that are like, we're low latency. It's like, yeah, you still have to get a signal across the country. So like...
It's true. Some of the, like, Jack Tripp works relatively well. And I think Miller Puckett just put out a new couple, like Nettie and Quack Trip.
I don't know about either of those.
They run through PD, Pure Data, but
okay.
I mean, they're as low latency as your network will allow. So I was doing one between here and Dallas, and I think it was like 40 milliseconds or something.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Is Netty the one that's called Netty McNetface?
Yep.
Okay.
It is. And then and in order to run it, one of the people has to start a Netty McServer. It's pretty great. But they're all PD patches, so.
Okay, well I'll have to look into that. That's like, yeah. Yeah.
Have you been keeping up with any electronic stuff like Max or PD or Chuck? I feel like you were using Chuck for a while, right?
Yeah, I was. I not like for the last year. So, well, okay. I've done some stuff in Python. I've been doing so I just like, a lot of people right now, I'm trying to get a job in the tech world. And so I did a data science boot camp. Nice. And so I was working in Python, and I decided to work on some audio feature detection with this library called Librosa. So I've been doing stuff manipulating sound in Python, but mostly it's been not for the purpose of making music to this point. But it's sort of I wanted to do that to develop the toolkit where now I could go, and I think I want to use so I've been working with neural networks, and I want to use these neural networks called GANs, generative something net, that basically you train it on an existing set of, say, audio or whatever, visuals, and then it generates new material, new content based on what you train it on. So that's something I've been working on, but I haven't produced a project yet.
Okay.
And yeah, I think the last time I worked with Chuck was a year and a half ago. I went down to Rio to where Santiago, who you also know, is a fellow at the International Institute for Mathematics, and it's Applied Mathematics Institute.
Okay. Cool.
Had a live coding conference, and so I used Chuck for that, but I haven't done a lot with that. I'm curious what you've been doing with all of that.
We can talk about that. I want to know about the neural network project. So what is it that you're hoping to do with it?
I'm still figuring that out. So, okay. I was working with Richard Savory on this paper that we presented at last year's Society for Music Theory conference about this woman named Sister Harriet Padberg.
Oh yeah, I was on that too.
Yeah, that's right. We were
co-authors.
We're co-authors on that paper.
Yeah.
So so I think that kind of got me more thinking about algorithmic composition. And so I think that got me thinking about it, and then just having the doing this boot camp and learning about neural networks. Basically the whole time I was sitting here going I know I can make music with this. I know I can make music with this. How can I make music with this?
Yeah.
And so then it was finding what kinds of networks work well for that. And so I think my goal, a project I proposed for a residency, which I don't think I got or is happening, one of the two, was to work with the Bloomington Normal Historical Society. And they have the Historical Society has a wing that's an arts foundation for experimental audio art with historical materials, and they do a residency every year.
That's pretty specific.
It's extremely specific, but it's also extremely what I wanted to try. Yeah. So I was okay, I'll apply. And so basically my suggestion was I would take a bunch of their archival audio from Bloomington Normal's history, find some topic within that, and then basically just train a neural network on those sounds, and then either have it auto complete the sounds, play the sound so that you hear the start of the recording as it is, and then have the network try to complete the sound and probably generate something crazy in the process, or feed it all these and then have an installation where you're hearing both the archival sound and whatever the neural network decides to create out of it.
Yeah. That's a very cool idea of an incomplete sound, whatever that means, and then completing a sound.
I think in that I'm relying, what I'm imagining, it's probably, the thing is, I'm imagining a process and not a sound, right? Because I don't know what's going to come out of these things. So it's a different kind of composition, I guess. But I think I'm relying on the fact that, like, as much as neural networks can be really accurate in detecting audio features, they also just, like, are still pretty dumb. Like, I'm relying on the fact that it would take an audio recording of, like, I don't know, a person speaking and have no idea actually how to finish that, so it would generate some crazy sound. I don't know.
I feel like there's this problem, because there was something, I think I read about it a couple of years ago. It was some advanced neural network that Google was working on, and they were trying to teach it what a wolf was. And so it looked at all these pictures of wolves, but what the programmers didn't realize is that all those pictures also had snow in them. And so it only thought it was a wolf if it had snow in it. And in fact, it started labeling all sorts of other things that had snow along with them as wolves. And then wolves where there was no snow, it didn't think was a wolf.
Yeah. It's actually, even if you, like, I use Google Photos on my phone, and it, like, I don't know if you do this, it, like, identifies stuff in your photos so that you can search your photos for, like, a wolf or whatever.
No. I don't do it. I keep my phone as, like, I don't know. I have this weird, like, Luddite fear.
I don't know if it's weird. I feel like it's pretty justified. But
like, I don't do the thing where, like, I can send messages on my phone from my computer. Like, I have that disconnected. I hate it.
Okay. Yeah, they're trying to connect you and everything for, like, in every way. And no, like, Google's image identification is surprisingly good a lot of the time. Yeah. You can, like, look up some extremely specific things. But then also sometimes it's just, it's very dumb. I think this is one reason, like, getting into this neural network thing is what's made me realize how far away autonomous vehicles are.
Yeah.
Like, people for, like, I don't know how long, a long time have been like, oh, autonomous vehicles are, like, 10 years away or within the next 10 years. And the reality is, like, maybe, but, like, they can't see anything right now. Like,
right.
They can't tell a pothole from, like, a boulder. They don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think there's some very deep things missing, and Richard Savory and I always we go back and forth on this one a lot, but I'm working on C++, trying to learn it.
Cool.
And I feel like a takeaway I've gotten is that a computer doesn't know what a word is. No neural network, no artificial, it doesn't know what a word is at all. And I feel like that, just something like that, the concept of something like a word, is very different than teaching it to connect different strings of letters and different pieces of data, even in very complex ways. I feel
you're
like
right.
The emergent concept of a word is not happening.
Yeah, it doesn't really understand, like, phonemes or, like, the way we, organize that stuff in our brains at all. It doesn't have a brain that's the same. So, like...
Right. Like, a stop sign isn't anything. So it can learn shape recognition, and it can learn all sorts of different variations on a shape. But a stop sign is an idea that is related to that shape. But potentially, we could see a yellow triangle that says stop, and we'd still know it was a stop sign. Or a cube that says stop, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we have an abstracted class of stop sign in our brain that is very difficult to program.
Yeah, I know there's, like, so many, like, Richard is probably one of these people, so many brilliant people working on making neural networks that more resemble how we think, but we're so far away. We're so far away.
Well, I feel like the problem is that the algorithms have to get so complicated that as a programmer, you don't actually know what they're doing anymore. And so knowing that it has any approximation of how we're thinking, I feel like we also don't know how we're thinking. So.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I have no idea. The other problem I always have is I get to a point where I don't actually care what a computer can do. Like, if a robot can compose music that's really cool, I think that it's a neat trick. But it's like what you were talking about with the process being interesting, with how you're working with neural networks. And the output is neat, but what's actually artistically like gratifying about about that kind of work is the process of you doing something with a neural network. It's your interfacing with the neural network, the human side of it.
Yeah, I was recently, I was thinking, like, I feel like, the most satisfying, like, applications of maybe it's algorithms to music or just like interactive electronics to music are when humans make choices
right
with what the electronics are a factor, but the humans are making a lot of the choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what my goal would be with neural networks, but just, it's a matter of, like, the neural network is doing its thing. It's sort of, it's like a black box, you're right. And, like, but then I'm putting things in, I'm taking things out. Maybe other people are putting things in and taking things out and choosing what we,
right.
It's a collaborative process.
Yeah. But it's like the network is mediating human collaboration or something.
Yeah, you're right. It's like you're generating human meaning, like human connection, but with that as
I feel like it's all human. Like music is human. It's in human brains. I don't think a computer knows what music is. It doesn't know what a word is either. Like, it's the whole thing. It's music is just us.
That's a really, whoa, crazy. Deep. I like it. I like it. Yeah. No, I mean, I was thinking about this with, like, like airport screen. I went through this airport screening once going through an international flight, and there were two options. It's like going through customs. You could either go through this, like, super long line where there's, like, 3 different stages of them checking you and, like, searching your bag and stuff. And then there was a secondary line that's like, we're doing a trial of a new, like, system to check people as they come into the country. Would you like to try it? And I said, okay. So I went over to this place that had no line, and I went around the corner, and there was just a dog sitting there. And and they were like, all right, so open your suitcase, let the dog sniff around, and then let the dog sniff you. And so then the dog did, and it was fine, and I just, like, walked on in. And
weird.
It's like, it was kind of great, but it's also, like, a dog, like, not only has the senses to pick things up, but it understands social cues. Like, it understands context, it understands body language. It doesn't need to be, like, it's not a computer that's, like, trying to identify stuff in your luggage. It's like, it's a dog. It knows what it's looking for, and if it doesn't find it, it's like, okay, I'm happy. Like, and, it's just, so, humans are so much more efficient at stuff than computers, in like, in certain ways. I mean, not, like, mass repetitive data processing tasks, clearly, but, like, that's pretty much the only thing that...
I mean, a computer is infinitely better than a human at arithmetic.
Yeah, of course. But,
I don't remember who said it. Somebody who was writing about AI was saying that there is no point at which AI is just slightly better than humans at something. It's either infinitely better or way worse. Interesting.
Huh. Have you been doing... So I'm curious about your C++ work. What are you working on with that?
Nothing. I'm just going through a book on how to do it, and I've been stuck on a problem for like a week. So.
What's the problem?
It's just a basic thing. It's like make a program that orders a series of inputted integers in descending order. But
okay,
that's fine. That's easy. Unless there's repeated integers.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, I looked at there's ways to do it that are pretty slick, but I'm trying to do it with what I've learned in the book so far.
Okay.
Which is with basic like if statements and just like math operations and things like that.
That sounds like a fun challenge.
Yeah, but I'm a little bit stuck when it involves... It works fine if there's no repeated numbers, but...
Yeah. There's a great website about... Have you found the one that's like a visualization of all the different ways to sort a list?
No, that sounds like that would be helpful.
Yes, if I find it, I will send it to you.
Okay.
It's
Good.
kind of fun to watch also.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So you got that. You got your live streams that you've been doing. You have your cassette out.
Cassette out. Kind of everything else is on hold. I mean, I had a bunch of stuff I was really looking forward to back in March. Like, April and May were booked with all kinds of, like, stuff, and all that's either been canceled or just, like, indefinitely postponed. So, I guess I did, the only other two things I've been working on are, like, when I say working on, it's, like, a very loose process because it's hard to motivate when I don't have deadlines for anything, but...
Certainly is.
Yeah. Yep. I like started, I think I told you about this the other day. I started making this, like, I had a bunch of extra t-shirts. So I was like, I should make a t-shirt blanket so that I do something with all these t-shirts. And then I had the idea of like turning it into an installation project. So I just ordered a bunch of little tiny circuits, little tiny chip things. And basically I'm going to make the blanket I'm going to call it a security blanket. So, like, it's going to have a few, like, sensors. I don't know if they're going to be motion or touch sensors in them. But, like, when you move the blanket or touch them, you, like, wrap it around yourself, and then you hear comforting sounds. So...
That's great.
I don't know. I don't know how feasible it will be. I don't know how to sew speakers into a blanket or if I'll have to do it a different way, but it's going to be fun.
I feel like also having speakers and, like, circuits and chips in the blanket itself might make it less comfortable, too.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. It might make it less comfortable. That's the kit that I ordered so the company is called Tiny Circuits, and it like basically it's like an Arduino, but each one is like the size of like smaller than a dime, so you can like sew it in, and it's also machine washable chips, which I didn't know existed, but like
all sorts of crazy stuff exists. Machine washable chip. That's a funny idea to me because I have never considered that I wish I could wash a chip.
I mean, yeah, none of us really do need to wash chips very much.
Well, can I put my laptop through the washing machine? Then I don't want it.
I discovered recently, tangentially, I was working on some music stuff with my laptop. I live like a block from Lake Michigan, which is wonderful.
Oh,
There's this
amazing.
like neighborhood beach down there, so I like bring my little like blanket out and my laptop and I just like work on the beach.
On the beach?
Yeah. And I was doing that like last week, and that's how I learned that MacBooks can be destroyed by like a single grain of sand. So
did something happen to your laptop?
It's fine for now, but basically like between the keyboard, the trackpad, and like the hinge that if sand gets in there, it's like you can't get it out without removing all of that.
Yeah. The keyboard is the worst on the MacBooks because it's under everything.
Is it?
Well, yeah.
Ugh.
So I've done a little work on my MacBook, and like hard drives and stuff, that's all easy to get at. But the keyboard's under the motherboard.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So you have to take that out.
Yikes. I admire that you work on your own MacBook. That is next level.
Yeah. Well, I had two, and I spilled water all over one of them.
Oh, man.
So it totally fried it. But I took the hard drive out of that one and put it in my second one. So. Yeah. I like the old MacBooks, though. I don't think I would buy a new one.
I had to buy a new one 2 years ago, and keep the old ones going.
Yeah, I want to keep it going. I really don't like the way the new ones are.
Yeah, keep those old ones.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know I'm curious to hear about the album you just put out, if you want to talk about it, because I loved it so much.
Really?
Yeah, I loved it. I've listened to it a few times as well, and it just like, I don't know, it's like it's very emotional to me. Like evokes a lot of different emotions. I'm just curious how you.
I think I was very depressed and despondent, and I was just like feeling really like upset about the world of music and the political world, and really like despondent, and also like I wasn't really agreeing with anybody, and like all this anger on Twitter, and it's just like, how do you know? How are you so sure about what you're saying?
Yeah.
And so like it was like these three ideas, like, I don't know, what if you're wrong? And then the last one was like how everybody has these thoughts that they're thinking, but everybody's hiding like 70% of what they're thinking right now. Because we're so wrapped up in everything that's going on. So those are like the themes. And then I just made this super, super dense texture so that I could also just hide everything about like flaws in my technique, because it's just all going through reverb and delay. And so it just sounds like it's just amazing shredding, and it's not even played that well.
It sounds fantastic, so...
It's pretty sloppy. But that's kind of the thing. It's like, if you put enough reverb and delay, and in fact, there's no dry signal at all in the entire album. It's all just 100% wet signal from reverbs and delays.
That's really interesting. So it's sort of reflecting the structure of how we're expressing our thoughts. Wow. Huh.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't know how I can play it, though. Like, I would love to be able to perform it somehow. It's a little bit difficult to perform.
It's like with all the layers and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I could like use a trigger and trigger different layers, but then I feel like I'd have to do it like a DJ rather than like a guitar performer.
You might get really famous. People like those kinds of performances, the DJs who are like, yeah, and they just like hit a button.
Right, just fist bump. My favorite is to assign like a high pass filter to a dial, and so it's like like that kind of thing, and you just fist bump while you do it. Yeah, that's the best.
You can get famous doing that. You should do that.
I don't think I can get famous.
You could. I don't know. There's people out there. There's a saxophonist. What's his name? He like plays saxophone and basically does that. He just has like a console and he's just like dropping different parts of his beats and then just like wailing over the top, and he gets like thousands of people.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah.
Saxophone's really doing it for people today, though.
You think so?
I think guitar is kind of... It feels like if you were wailing on guitar over something, it feels so 80s. People like saxophones right now.
Huh. I guess they do. I'm mostly thinking of because I know so embarrassingly little about like current music trends. Like
yeah, me too.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I know that like a couple albums recently have had saxophone solos on them that people have liked and whatever, but I don't know what you're thinking of specifically, but I'm curious.
I don't know. I feel like I also don't know that much about, say, the last 2 years. I used to listen to a lot of like top 40 just to like keep myself in the know. Mm-hmm. And before that, I listened to it a lot just because I liked it. But I would say starting in like 2012, like everything had saxophone on it. And like all the Macklemore tunes and stuff, like when he was big, it was all like these saxophone riffs that were like the main hook for the song.
Yeah, I guess that did happen. There was like a brief phase because when I was in Detroit, I played in a Balkan band, and there was a brief phase where like specifically Balkan horns were a thing. Like,
okay, cool.
In pop music, it lasted for like 6 months max. It was like very short-lived. But
do you remember any songs?
Jason Derulo, "Talk Dirty" is
I was
one of
just
them.
Thinking about that. That's like a soprano sax, right?
That is, I believe, an alto, and I've met the person who... Yeah. So the saxophonist who did that, I believe, from what I've been told, like because they also use some, like there's a brass section in that. I believe that is a Balkan band that I have played with out in New York. They're like... Cool. So, yeah, for a hot second, Balkan brass was, like, in hip-hop, and I was like, yes! And then it stopped immediately.
Oh, man.
So, yeah. I don't know. But a friend of mine, Rachel Mazer, who went to Michigan when I was at Michigan in the same saxophone studio, just did she's the saxophonist on Lady Gaga's latest album. And so she's getting all kinds of great press for that, it's like really cool to see a very good saxophonist getting a lot of acclaim for doing that. So
that's awesome.
I feel like there's guitar out there though. I feel like there's a lot of it.
There is. Like Ed Sheeran, like the slap stuff. Doon, 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 that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like Whaley electric guitar? I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I guess, once again, I don't know enough about popular music. I'm an embarrassment to my bar trivia team because, like, every time there's, like, a music category question, everyone, like, looks at me like... Oh,
no, you can't do it.
And I, like, never know it's always like, all right, music category, Molly, you better get us the answer to this one. And then it's like, who is former superstar Sam Smith dating? And I'm like, I don't know any of this.
That's a hard question.
Yeah, it is.
Well, actually, so I have a pop music question for you. So I'm working on a paper right now that's talking about a trend that I noticed like a couple of years ago in pop music. And maybe you know about it because you do know about the Jason Derulo. But so there's this thing where these old songs are being reused, but the lyrics are shifted and the kind of sound is shifted, but the melody is kept the same. Like Ariana Grande's Seven Rings came out last year. Did you hear that?
I would probably recognize it if I heard it, but
so she uses My Favorite Things, the Rodgers and Hammerstein song, but she changes all the words.
Whoa, interesting.
Right. So, like, it's not a sample. It's not a cover. It's not really a quote because all the words are changed.
Huh.
So, so I'm calling it a propagation, like from horticulture.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You, clip a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Do you have other examples of songs
I have a whole list of them. But
wow.
Do you remember the song Graduation by Vitamin C? Mm-hmm. As we go. Yeah, so somebody took that one last year also and used it as the hook for a rap, but they sang it themselves so that they didn't sample Vitamin C, and they changed a couple of the words so that it was like, instead of like celebratory, it was like sarcastic and rude.
Interesting.
Right. It's fascinating to me what this is.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because whereas I don't know, Rodgers and Hammerstein I'm guessing is in the public domain at this point, but Vitamin C...
she has to pay their estate. They're listed as composers on the song. Wow.
Okay, so they're actually crediting people.
Yep.
It's interesting because it sort of revisits the impetus of hip hop, right? Which is to take what exists and transform it. It but they're all the legal
right. It's weird because they're not samples at all. It's it really reminds me of jazz. Like if Bill Evans does Someday My Prince Will Come, he's doing the song, but he's totally transforming it. And like recontextualizing it, and kind of like the meaning of it changes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And then also John Coltrane and My Favorite Things. It's interesting that she used that one because that particular tune has such a history.
I remember you once showing me a website that was like tracks. This is back to samples again, but in my mind they're like very related. That like tracks samples as they've been used in different. Yeah. What's that website?
Who
called?
Sampled?
Who Sampled? Okay.
Yeah, because I think I did a presentation in Nicole Mitchell's Black Music Seminar on sampling.
Oh right, and you talked about how was it Miley Cyrus had sampled? Yes.
So she didn't sample. So actually, I'm using her in my paper here because she takes Slick Rick's song "La Di Da Di," and then she shifts it. She sings it to "La Da Di Da Di."
That's right. And it's a song about partying, which
Yeah.
yeah, interesting, super interesting.
So that's like a very small propagation, but
okay.
I don't know.
What journal are you submitting this to?
I don't know. Somewhere.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? Are you doing any written stuff?
No, I feel like you're such a scholar with like you write well about music. I don't. I haven't really written. I wrote like the last thing I wrote was like a year ago. I did some analysis of a Pamela Z piece that's fantastic
cool.
called Carbon Song Cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Have you listened to Carbon Song Cycle? It's really fun. It's a
Carbon,
yeah.
like the element.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like she was really inspired by the carbon cycle, which I didn't know anything about, and just like decided to make it into an opera, like a chamber opera.
Whoa. Cool.
Yeah. It's really cool. Yeah. Yeah.
When was this?
In the last 10 years sometime.
Okay.
Let me see. I would have to look it up the exact year, but
New opera is such an interesting idea to me.
yeah.
It's I feel like the world of sort of academic and academic adjacent music is like fascinating in what it is and how it exists.
Say more.
I don't know. I think the pop music industry makes sense to me. It's like a market that's been created and commodified and everything. But I feel like the academic music world also makes a certain amount of sense to me. Is it's sort of a place to maintain these historical lineages of like Western European music. But then there's like this other space that I feel like is sort of downstream of it, of experimental music by people who tend to be trained in those academic institutions, but don't necessarily like the structure and the prescriptions of it. But then they still do things like make operas and chamber ensembles. And so it's partially engaging with it, but it's also kind of rejecting it.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I feel like my musical world, like so many different people I interact with, like virtually every musician I interact with, not all, but almost all, have some kind of academic music background.
Right.
But like the kinds of music they're making are just like all over. And so it's hard not to see all of them as sort of like part of that academic music tradition. And the idea of like, oh, well, like, what is improvised music's place within the academy? Because on the one hand, it seems to like, people will say that the academy doesn't treat it well or recognize it. But on the other hand, like, it's very much enshrined in the academy.
Yep.
It's just like a funny, I don't know.
Yeah, it's all this stuff confuses me. Every time I think about it, I just, I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. Yeah. So what's next for you? Do you have any plans or anything you're looking forward to?
Well, making this blanket, and I'm working on a commission for a trio called Threeform that's in North Carolina.
Cool.
That's saxophone, piano, and percussion. And so
Sweet.
That's been put on hold, but it's still happening. So I'm just kind of gradually working on it and hoping that at some point, whenever that is, they'll decide that they are going to perform it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty much my my things. Although on Wednesday, I'm also excited because it's a smaller thing, but I'm going to revisit Martine's class at Brown, and I'm going to teach a conduction workshop,
cool.
which is going to be really fun. I'm excited.
This is
for that.
October 14th?
Yes.
Okay. This probably won't be out by then, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, by the time it's out, I will have had fun.
Excellent.
I will have had fun conducting some undergraduates.
Okay.
So, yeah. What about you?
I don't know. Just working on some papers. Trying to work on another Spotify release, probably for January or something like that.
Cool.
Maybe the opposite of hiding, like exposing or something.
Exposing.
That's probably not. Probably won't go with that. Yeah. Cool. Well, it sounds like you got a lot of stuff.
I guess. I mean, a lot, right? Yeah,
Well,
sure.
well, you got your neural network thing too.
I do.
Python,
That's sort of. These are sort of all like nebulous, like no deadline projects, which means I'm probably going to take forever to do them.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Well,
yeah,
that's good.
yeah,
Yeah. So, do you want to play something? Before
yeah.
we
Let's do
get
it.
Out of here?
I'm gonna grab my alto flute here.
Ooh, cool.
Might have to reset my levels just a tad, but we'll see.
All right. I'm actually going to go and grab my banjo. I think that could be fun.
Ooh, that could be fun. Yes.
I'll be right back.
Cool.
All right.
Do you have a good note that I can tune to?
A good note.
Or any note, really.
That's should be a C. All right.
All
Whatever
right.
happens. Yeah, yeah.
Whatever happens, all right.
Cool. That was fun.
That was fun. I like appreciate that look at the end of every improvisation where it's like everyone kind of senses that you're done and then you all like look like hello.
Yep.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
cool.
I like this thing. I've been playing this thing a lot more. So
Yeah, it sounds awesome. That's like, have you been doing like any traditional stuff, or have you been mostly doing?
Yeah. I had a gig. Well, I've played this show probably 5 times in the last 2 years called Bright Star. It's a musical written by Steve Martin.
Whoa. Okay.
So I had to learn like traditional like. Ooh, it's all out of tune now because of that. But I had to learn traditional claw hammer.
Wow.
And then 3-finger Scruggs style. So
that's so cool.
I've been playing a lot, so it's fun.
Wow. The banjo is a super underrated instrument.
It is. It's so like expressive and melancholy and like
yeah.
It's great. So where can people find you? Where can they find your stuff?
They can find me so my Bandcamp is just mollyjones.bandcamp.com, and then I have a website, and that's mollyjonesmusic.com.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty much there.
All right, sweet. Well, thanks so much for doing this. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun.
Cool.
Yeah. Right. Cool.
Bye.
Well, bye. See you soon.
Yeah. Thanks for watching or listening. That was Molly Jones. You can find her at the links below. And please remember to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And also, if you would like to consider supporting my content generally, please visit my Patreon page. Thanks. Bye.